This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business, from politics, from policies that impact you, the viewer. Today our guest is Gautam Adhikari. Gautam, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
How have you been?
Very well indeed.
So you talk about the young populations, which is important. I consider them as very entrepreneurs, very engaging, the populations in India. They're strong, they're resilient, they're vibrant. And they want to just capture the heart of the world. What's the difference between the youth in India and United States?
That is a very easy question to answer by saying that they are all equally creative. but believe me, it's a very, very difficult question. If anybody says they know what the youth is thinking, because the youth is not one singular whole. As in the United States, for instance, there's a sharp difference between college-educated youth and those who have either not completed high school or have just completed high school. And there are sharp differences, not just in culture, but in terms of even their political views, and many of them are coming of age to vote. So that's why, take the youthful reaction, for instance, in two separate school shootings that took place. One was in Florida, in a relatively upwardly mobile, or let's say upper class neighborhood. It was a public school. And the other took place in Texas, which was much more of a rural area. And the two reactions were not similar at all.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So in India, it's pretty much the same thing. And it's also, I would say that there is another divide out there, which is that people from different states and different linguistic groups have different interests
and different background and belief.
But they are all aspiring. They are all aspiring. They want to succeed, and that is a very good.
They want to make a change.
Yes,
and make a positive change.
I think so.
I want to talk a little bit about the anxiety of especially South Asian immigrants under this administration. They're under attack because of the fact that they're trying to reduce the level of H-1 visa. Reduce the legal immigrations and also get rid of the diversity lottery visa, and also get rid of the family visa. There's many other aspects. Or do you think that people should have anxiety and fear? I don't think so, but I want to get your view. I'm immigrant just like you are.
It's difficult to say should or shouldn't, because that is a judgment that I'm not quite competent to make at this point. But is it a fact that there are anxieties that are bothering people? I don't think it's just Indians. A lot of immigrants in this country are feeling somewhat anxious, looking back over their shoulders sometimes, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, and waiting for a clear guideline on where they stand as immigrants. And this is a very, very rapidly changing society demographically. And the anxieties of the dominant classes are understandable, but they have a negative reaction on people who are coming in and people of color. So, and on top of that also, there's the other factor, which is that people of the Islamic faith are also
under attack,
particularly anxious, I think, for a variety of reasons. And these are issues that are interestingly not absent in India either.
There is
in India also, Muslims are
under attack.
Are very anxious.
They are now there's increasingly intolerant society. India has become under this administration. That's what the people say.
Well, my book in 2011 was called The Intolerant Indian, and this is exactly the subject I dealt with in 6 years ago, or 7 years ago actually.
And it hasn't really changed that much. Do you think it has increased the intolerance more, or it has been in going upward or going downward?
Well, in a democracy, you should have enough outlets for people, institutional outlets as well as cultural outlets, to promote and encourage diversity.
And communal peace and harmony.
Yes, but that was, I think, what the constitution makers of India
And India is a
they aimed
beacon
for.
of secularism and
Yeah.
democracy and diversity all around the globe.
Exactly. It was a remarkable experiment. I think that when it became independent, life expectancy was somewhere in the mid-30s or just less than 40 at that time. And now it's much higher. It's over 66, I think. And literacy was barely 30%. It's now 74%. So things have been changing from what it was within that diversity. And everybody believed that India, as a democracy, was going to show the path towards peaceful coexistence amongst various communities.
It could be the model. It could be a model for the people to imitate.
And I think a lot
Not
of people...
Not only the diversity, but also the democracy around the world, around the globe.
Yes, but then one competing ideology was there, which is that of nationalism. Now, nationalism in extreme form everywhere, and this is true for this country as well.
It's dangerous.
It is necessarily exclusionary, if you can call it that. Excessive nationalism.
It's not inclusive.
Yeah, it's not, by nationalism I'm not talking about supporting a football team or a basketball team or something like that. When America or the US is playing, say, any other country, that's not the kind of nationalism I'm talking about. That's fine. That's like almost club level passion. But nationalism, when it's taken to its extreme form, is necessarily against other nations. And it's also against people who disagree with that version of nationalism within your country. This is happening both in the United States,
yes,
as well as in India. Perhaps very loosely, I would call it a kind of white male Christian nationalism that is slowly gathering steam in this country. And in India, it's a kind of Hindu nationalism of a kind that was always there. That's been there for at least 100 years.
They have risen a lot more?
But it was never being propagated as almost official policy. And educational courses are being changed. And that nationalism, it is at the exclusion of people of other religions. And I would even say that nationalism excludes a lot of Hindus, because it's a particularly defined kind of North Indian Hindu nationalism.
So it's a narrowly defined.
Yeah, the South Indian, the Tamil, the Malayali, the Bengali.
And the Dalit?
And Dalit, again, there are caste divisions, so the Dalits are turning increasingly to Buddhism in India.
I did not know that.
Well, Ambedkar, the father of the Indian Constitution, was a Dalit.
Yes.
Was one of the leading Buddhists of that.
I did not know. I want to change the subject in three areas. One area is about the scrapping the Iran nuclear deal. What effect does it have in India? The second topic, I want you to shed some light on freedom of press in India. And the third topic is, I just discussed with my friend Sanjeev about the India diaspora, what India diaspora can do and contribute significantly that can have impact in India. So those are the three topics I want to talk to you.
Sure. Would you like me to
start anywhere, Gautam.
Okay. What was the first topic again?
First topic was the scrapping the Iran nuclear deal. What effect does it have in India?
That is created a slightly embarrassing situation for many countries, not just India.
Including Europe.
So Europeans are, and you see, it's easy, for instance, for Europe to say, oh, we'll go on trading with India, we won't observe the sanctions and all, but then there's the cost involved of not trading or getting slapped for sanctions by the United States, which is by far the largest economy in the world, and the Iran economy is tiny compared to the US economy.
But India gets a lot of oil from India.
India's problem is that Iran is the third largest oil supplier.
That's what I thought.
I think the largest is Saudi Arabia, then it's Iraq, and then it's Iran. The price of oil in any case is rising, partly also because of the sanctions that have been reintroduced after the...
So it has a negative effect.
So the price fall in oil that took place was a tremendous boon to the Indian budget and the budget makers. They could really get a lot of space to start social programs and other things which they couldn't with the budgetary condition being what it is. Now that might go back to that kind of a tight situation, and oil prices in India are rising. So that's one area that I would say. But overall, there's also the what you might call the corridor argument, which is that Iran provides a corridor for India to Central Asia. As you are aware that one of India's major concerns in the region and worldwide as well is the rise of China and China's what India sees as encirclement of the Indian nation out there. They have very good relations with Pakistan. Their relations with Burma are extremely good. Their relations.
You're talking about Iran and Burma?
China.
China. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
you're right.
what is happening is that with the Belt Road Initiative and the ports that they are building in Djibouti, then the Gwadar port in Pakistan, China is pretty well established not just around India but also in the Indian Ocean.
They're well entrenched.
Right, and the access that India wants to through Afghanistan into Central Asia and through Iran into Central Asia, that also is an area that will have to go through Pakistan, which is again a difficult nation for India to handle. So Iran actually was one bright spot. The relationship with Iran was relatively normal, despite all the other global hindrances that were there. But Iran's relationship with India was relatively normal. But this will create problems for that too.
Very well said. Talk about the freedom of press. Freedom of press is a cornerstone of a pillar of a democracy. Is it under attack in India?
Curiously, yes, of course it is under attack. Freedom of the press is always under attack from somebody or the other. That's the charming thing about democracy, that it allows people to attack even the foundations of democracy. But it has withstood that attack for a long time. Currently, I would say that the attack is taking place on two fronts. One is more of the nationalistic argument, the cultural argument kind of thing. There is even talk of using social media to actually counter the narrative of the independent media. So the government has in fact floated a tender, I think, asking for companies to help them develop their ability to manipulate or handle social media.
My goodness.
So that's an interesting angle. So that apart, I mean, there's a lot of attack also from the militants of the right-wing Hindu nationalists.
And killing of the journalists.
And they have killed journalists. Gauri Lankesh, who was formerly a colleague of mine.
Yes.
Then they have killed other intellectuals. Davolkar and so now when it comes to killing or say lynching of people, which of course has not happened to journalists, but it has happened to a couple of Muslims.
Yes.
So, but journalists that way are under not just physical threat, but, and this is where the second part comes in, that the proprietors, the publishers, are also either under pressure or because they have other industrial interests, they are tending to convert some of their organs into blatant government propaganda machines. Like, well, I guess Fox News out here. So, but then the point is that
that's
a lot of
news.
television in India.
And that's why Trump likes it there. So he goes to the, well, because it's favorable for him. It's not a fake news.
Yeah, if you are a strong leader who believes in a kind of nationalistic way to run government, then it's always better to have the press on your side, as much of it as possible.
But India remains a vital and vibrant democracy because of freedom of press. And I think you shed a light on those things. That's what's happening. I want to change the conversation about the contributions and significant contribution of being a vital resource for India diaspora in terms of the India. There's many things the Indian diaspora can do to help India.
Yeah, I think that the diaspora is already doing it, in the sense that I think
what else do you want them to do more?
I would say that just keep on doing what they're doing, which is
creating jobs, creating companies.
Exactly. To create jobs in the countries that the diaspora has a significant presence in.
Okay.
Like the United States. I mean, it's close to 4 million now people of
Yes.
Indian origin out here.
And they have the capacity
Yeah.
to make a significant
Because there's
contribution.
one problem always with taking the diaspora as a kind of monolithic whole. It's not that. You see, because these second, third generation immigrant, the sons and daughters and grandsons who are now there, their ties with India are far weaker than the first generation.
Very well
immigrants.
said.
So you have
What
to
do we do? What do we have to do with the next generations?
Well, if they succeed, as they are currently doing, after all, Indians they have the highest median family income of any immigrant group. They are doing wonderful work in software. They're doing other great work in as professors and teachers in America's educational institutions. I think the overall image of Indians is a positive one. But given the current climate against immigrants and the notion that somehow Indians are monopolizing the H-1B visa,
Are taking away the
so
jobs.
these are two areas where there is some threat to that. But overall, the image of Indians out here is that of a model minority, very, very creative. They keep their heads low. Though right now there are people of Indian origin now running for Congress. And hey, there's a person of Indian origin who was governor
of South Carolina, Louisiana.
and now the ambassador at
United
the UN.
Nations.
So I mean, things are different. But to rely on everybody as sort of thinking of India while they're doing stuff for America would be, I think, a mistake. It would be better for, I think, immigrants, the bulk of whom are now relatively young, to do as much as they can for the country that they are in and improve, and thereby, as a net result of that, thereby improve the image of the Indian community as a whole.
Very well
And
said.
therefore of India.
So there could be a wider resource for,
I think so.
for America as well as for India.
Right.
Thank you very much, Gautam, for coming here, and thank you for our conversation.
Always
It
a
was
pleasure
wonderful.
talking to you. Thank you.
This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week, and thank you for watching.